I wrote a book of poetry in 2011, but this is a
Okay.
first novel.
Okay.
It was released in August of 2022.
So what inspired that then? Tell us about that. Take us to the
Well,
beginning.
it's quite a journey. So it started off by I wanted to write a biography of my husband's grandmother and her journey from Mississippi to Chicago when she took her youngest children and she moved to Chicago. She left her husband when like people didn't do that. And then as time went on, she got older. She lived in Chicago. We're in Vancouver, Canada. Talking on the phone was difficult. Her hearing was going. And then ultimately she died at 97. And so I felt like I'd made a promise to her, though, because I would spend a lot of time with her at different family events. And she would tell me different stories about her life and tell me how much she wanted people to know these things. So I mixed fact and fiction. So I basically delivered her message, the message that she wanted, but was able to take creative license and have a little more fun with it, right? And then it's not a lot of it. I mean, most of it is just my imagination, but it's based on her life, if you can follow what I'm trying to say with that.
Mm-hmm.
And so how that I wrote the first paragraph in 2003, and it was just going to be a short story, and that was completely kind of separate from my idea of writing the story of Lucinda's life. I had gone to Live Your Best Life seminar with Oprah in Seattle. And so she had like a journal, and she was trying to inspire people to follow whatever their dream was. So it was the kind of thing where I'd pick it up and I'd put it down, and I'd pick it up and I'd put it down. And then finally, with the lovely pandemic, like everyone else, I was like, well, what am I going to do? If not now, when? Right. And
Yeah,
so
absolutely.
I finished it, and then began the whole trying to find an agent, all the different queries, and just the frustration that comes with that. And I'd get close. I get a what my editor told me is like a positive rejection. She explained to me that they're not going to take the time to give you a compliment. They don't have time. So if they say that, they actually mean it. And I thought, okay, so I'd be encouraged and discouraged. And then I finally thought, you know what? I don't feel like I want to shop it around for 5, 8, 10 years. Like some people I know, like I know traditionally published authors, which they've been so helpful to me. But like my one friend, Joe, 8 years he shopped his book around, and he's doing great now. But I'm 57. I don't want to wait another 8 years, like I need to get the show on the road. So I formed Poetic Gems Publishing, and just published it myself. And that brings us to it's on another format called Draft to Digital, which has Barnes and Noble. Who else is on there? There's all kinds of different places that and it's like available in the ebook and the paper book and the audio. So it's you can find it anywhere. So it's wonderful. I'm really happy with the Draft to Digital because it really opened things up. But I do have to say that it does seem to sell more on Amazon than anywhere else.
That makes sense. I think they're probably one of the biggest retailers. So
right.
Yeah. So how did you find the process? Talk to me about your writing process. How how do you get into the inspired space to start writing? I think that's one of the hardest things for writers is to sit down and do it.
Well, I don't write linear. It's whatever character I happen to be feeling that day or whatever story I'm thinking about. And then I piece it together afterwards, right? So I'll take the initial, I did plot out who was going to be involved, because in the true story, the protagonist had 9 children. Well, there was no way. That's too many. I cut it down to 5, and even that was a lot, So just And my husband is my co-author. Eric's my co-author because, of course, I've never lived in Mississippi. I've been there.
Yeah.
It to get it right, I had to
Mhm.
ask him a lot of questions. So a lot of the book is making sure that it had the right, um, that it was authentic, that I stayed true to what it was like, and in the right voice, in the right language, all that sort of thing.
Mhm.
Um, but yeah, my process, yeah, I guess it's just when the mood hits and I'm feeling a particular character, then I write them.
That sounds right.
Yeah.
But your main character is a strong female lead.
Yes.
So can you tell me how that resonates with you?
Well, I'm very fortunate in that I have a very strong, resilient mother, just like Eric's grandmother, very strong, and who did not follow uh, the regular path. Like when I think about my life, so when I was 7 years old, my father took his life, and that for my mom in a neighborhood like in when I was growing up, everybody had a nuclear family. Mom and dad were at home. There wasn't single parent. Well, there was, but they were pretty few and far between. And so everybody was kind of like, "Are you going to go on welfare?" And this kind of thing to her. And she was just appalled. And she's like, "No, I'm going to go to work." She said, "If it weren't for me," she said, "it would have been a different story. Like it would have been hard to carry on. But when you have someone to live for, you'll work hard and do it for them, right?" And
Mhm.
so that was her, and that was Eric's grandmother too. Like she wanted so much for her children to all be educated, to all never have to rely on anybody, and that's the way my mother was too. And so that's why I dedicated it to those two women and my mother-in-law actually, because they were all ended up being single mothers working hard and trying to get by. Um, and my mother didn't have the benefit of a college education or anything. She had to just pull herself by her bootstraps, and she did. And she's going to be 85, and she's wonderful, and she's still strong and vibrant and has all kinds of activities that she's involved in. And she's really inspires me that it's not over until it's over. I mean, I thought like, a lot of people go, "Oh wow, that's so brave of you to write at your age." I'm not dead, and it's never too late, because I remember when my mother moved out to where we are. We lived probably about 45 minutes outside of Vancouver, and she said to me, "This is the happiest time of my life." And I thought, how wonderful that you can be in your 80s and that full of life and still willing to go on adventures and travel with me and that kind of thing. So just going back to Eric's grandmother, my protagonist so in the story, she's Junetta. In real life, her name was Lucinda, and she worked 7 days a week, you know just as much and as hard as she could to make sure that all her kids went to school. And I thought, wow, that's admirable. I don't know that I can work that hard for so long. I think she told me for 3 years straight, 7 days a week. And I thought, no way. But you do what it takes for,
Yeah.
but I relate to that, because when you have a dream and it's something you want to make happen, you got to do what you got to do.
Yeah.
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 Like I am always happy to offer, anything I can to people that are writing and tell
Mhm.
them, sort of the ups and downs and the do's and don'ts and what doesn't work and what you need to put your time and energy into, because there's room for all of us. Like it's not, I'm not trying to, I want us all to succeed. And so I do find it interesting, because there's quite a few artists that I know, um, that haven't been supportive, and you know, you question, is that personal, or is it just because of what they're struggling with in their art, or, you know, that kind of thing. But the people that have helped me, oh man, I can't say enough. Like my one friend, Shalene Knight, is she's an amazing writer. And it's interesting, so two friends, Shalene Knight and Joseph Kakawainosum. I'm sorry if I butchered that, Joe. Our books all got released within a couple of weeks of each other. And I did not realize that they were also writing about complicated mother relationship, both books. His is called My Indian Summer, hers is called Junie. And yeah, all interesting, the mother dynamic. And so her book is being developed into a mini series on CBC. It's a Canadian channel here. And yeah, Joe's doing amazing. And I'm so grateful to them for kind of telling me about different things, like the public lending program. So in Canada, when your book is in libraries, certain libraries, like they choose which ones across the provinces, they calculate how many books are in the library, and then there's a payout in January. Some libraries, I think in the US, they do like a pay per borrow system. So here you get paid up front for any book that they purchase, but they also do this for the first 5 years, and then after 5 years it drops to 50% of whatever the number is. So things like that, I would have never known that if somebody didn't tell me. So this is the kind of thing, whenever I meet a new author, do you know about the public lending program? Do you know about a copyright access? Do you know, like these kind of things are so important because there's no manual.
Exactly, especially if you're self-publishing or anything. Oh my goodness. And then somebody brings something else up and you're like, what's an ISBN?
Yeah. Where do you get it?
What?
And how you get it in Canada is different than how you get it in the US. And yeah, all these lovely things are just, getting very important to have your book professionally edited, very important to, like, there's just places that you should never cut corners. For me, like, I started off with a different cover. So the first cover I had meant so much to me because it was my girlfriend's hands on the cover. Her husband's like a professional photographer, and he did a beautiful job. But what my mentor ended up telling me was it didn't really communicate the genre so well. Like she said it wouldn't, there, and not just her, there was a few places, different consultants and that said that to me. So I thought, okay, well, let me give the cover another go. And I had our cover done by, we had a Mexican exchange student back in 1999 who grew up to be a graphic artist. So Arturo redid the cover for us, and I love it. It's such a beautiful cover.
It is beautiful.
Yeah, it really tells the story. He's so proud of it. It was his first book cover, and I said, well, hopefully this won't be the last, because I'll definitely throw work his way, and hope if anybody wants his information, absolutely get a hold of me and I will pass it along. And on the importance of like applying for the different awards, interesting, and but finding out which ones are legit too. There's a lot of stuff out there that they're just trying to take your money. So it's, it only takes a Google to, have a look and see which ones are considered legit.
Yeah.
And that kind of stuff is really important.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, can you tell our audience, if anyone connected with you and your story, where they can find you online?
Okay, so right now you can. I was hacked this week on my Facebook, so Facebook isn't a good one yet. Like, it was a rough week. PayPal and Facebook, yeah, it was a thing. So you can definitely get a hold of me at my website, which is just my name, melodyfowler.com. I am on Instagram. I am on TikTok. usually Facebook, but right now we'll leave Facebook alone. I have some videos on YouTube for, like, I did do some spoken word I have on there. And what's interesting on my YouTube channel also is there's a bit of an interview with me and Eric's grandmother, and I think he is
Ooh,
interviewed
that's
as well.
cool.
So that's very interesting, because then you really get the feel of who Junetta is, you know, especially like my editor, she was quite cute. So she didn't see the video until after the book was written, after it was finished editing, after she'd done all the editing and everything. And then she watched, she said, oh, she had such a reaction to it. She says, like, to see her come to life and hear her voice, right? It changed. It was life changing, she said to her. She doesn't watch TV. She's a book reader, right? So for her, that was good. So yeah, I strongly suggest, if you want to see who the real person is, yeah, go to my YouTube. You'll have all the links.
Yeah, they'll be in the description box.
Yeah,
For everyone to find. That is super cool though, so that people can get an understanding and a feel of that. That's awesome.
Yeah.
I love it. Thank you so much. I really loved meeting you and getting to know you and helping other people. Are you writing more?
Yeah, I've had quite a few people that wanted more of some of the characters in this book. One of my favorite characters is a bar singer named Racy. She was very fun to write. And so people would like more of her backstory. And so I do think about, kind of doing a prequel, but I have some works in progress. One is about traveling with my senior mother, which is always hilarious. It always ends up in some kind of adventure. We always end up in the wrong part of town at least once. And and the other one I would like to write is about, so I am a recovered compulsive gambler, and I thought about writing, They Called Me Lucky, or something along those lines, about my journey from early on, how I got into gambling and when it had to come to an end, or I was going to end. So yeah, so those two nonfiction, and then fictionally, I will probably do more along the lines, like make it more of a series, I guess. Maybe I'm considering it, because a lot of people have asked me that, and I don't know, sometimes I even think about screenwriting, because people say, it reads like a movie, and I thought, okay, well, can't hurt. Why not?
That would be fun. Hey.
Yeah. New challenge, right? Because
Yeah.
another thing I wanted to tell you about is, so when I finished writing the book during the pandemic and started chopping it around, I also thought, well, I need something else creative, and I was a bit burnt out writing. So then I took up painting, and I took to it. Like, I thought it was quite funny that, you wake up at 54 and you can paint. Okay, interesting. But so you can see some of my paintings behind me here, actually.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Nice.
And they're on the website too, if anybody's interested in that. So that's been quite a fun discovery.
I love it. That's awesome. Well, I want you to come back whenever your new project, if it's a screenplay, if you're doing a series, or whatever it is that you're doing, come surprise us and show us what you're doing.
Awesome.
Yeah. Thank you so much. It was awesome meeting you.
Thanks so much for having me, Brittany. I really appreciate it.
The Zarlequan Indieverse.